I swear to you, what I'm about to write down still doesn't make sense to me. Even as I sit here in my tiny Denver apartment, the hum of the refrigerator behind me, I can still feel the weight of it pressing down on my chest, the same way it did that night. Do you know what it feels like to be completely awake, your mind screaming at you to move, but your body refusing every command? Do you know the terror of realizing that someone, or something, is standing over you in the dark while you can't even lift a finger? I didn't, until that night. I was in my second year at the University of Colorado, living off campus in a shabby apartment that had paper, thin walls, and a heater that clanked all night like pipes were being strangled from the inside. Finals week had eaten me alive. I hadn't slept properly in days, running on caffeine and leftover instant ramen. The last exam was biology, and I'd been cramming so hard my hands shook when I closed the book. When I finally collapsed into bed, I expected nothing but dreamless rest. Instead, I fell into something else, something I'll never forget. At first, it was just the sensation of floating. My eyelids twitched half open, and I saw my familiar ceiling fan unmoving in the stale air. My room was cloaked in that faint orange glow from the streetlight outside, filtering through blinds that never shut all the way. But everything felt thinner, like the air itself was harder to breathe. I tried to roll onto my side. Nothing. My body refused me. My mind was sharp awake, but my muscles were locked tight. That's when the fear first crept in, curling up from the pit of my stomach like ice water. And then I saw her. At the far end of my room, near the desk piled with textbooks, stood a figure. A woman. At least she seemed like one, dressed in a long black dress that dragged the floor. Her head was tilted slightly, as if she'd been waiting for me to notice her. In her hands, she held something long and thin, but the shadows ate away at the details. My eyes darted frantic, searching for a trick of the light, but when I looked back at the figure, she was closer. Not walking, just closer. Do you know the helplessness of wanting to scream and realizing your mouth won't open? I wanted to call for my mom, even though she'd been gone 3 weeks by then, gone to a car accident I still hadn't processed. My throat vibrated uselessly, no sound coming. The woman glided closer until she was kneeling beside my bed. Her face lowered toward mine, and I felt her hand press against my forehead. Cold, too real to be a dream. My chest throbbed with terror as her features shifted. Her hair fell away, her cheeks morphed, and I was staring into my mother's face. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. I tried again. Desperate, "Mom, nothing." She stood, turned toward the bedroom doorway, and slipped out without a sound. The moment she vanished, something broke inside me. My vision cleared. My muscles jerked awake, and I shot upright in bed with a scream ripping through my throat. "Mom! Mom!" I stumbled into the hallway, still shouting, heart pounding so hard it hurt. A door opened. My father's. He was visiting, staying in the guest room because he couldn't stand the silence of his own house anymore. He pulled me into his arms as I sobbed, telling me over and over, "I miss her too. I miss her too." But all I could think, as he held me, was if that wasn't her, then what the hell came into my room that night? Do you ever wake up in the middle of the night certain, absolutely certain, that something is in the room with you? Not a sound you can explain away, not the shifting of shadows, but the undeniable presence of someone standing just beyond your reach. I used to laugh off those feelings, chalk them up to dreams or late night paranoia. But that was before the night I found myself staring into the crack of my closet door and meeting a face that did not belong to this world. I've always had vivid dreams. The kind that leave you shaken the next morning, not because of what happened in them, but because of how real they felt. That night in Portland, though, I learned there's a difference between a dream and whatever it was I experienced. Dreams fade. They dissolve like fog when the sun comes up. What I went through has followed me day after day, like a shadow that doesn't know how to let go. I remember falling asleep during REM, slipping into one of those bizarre nightmares where logic doesn't matter. I was running through Forest Park, though the trees felt wrong. Too tall, their bark slick like skin. Something was following me, some twisted creature with limbs that bent in ways they shouldn't. Its breathing was mechanical, but wet, like gears turning inside a body of flesh. I could hear it gaining on me with every step, yet the path beneath my feet stretched longer and longer, as if mocking me. And then, the nightmare broke. Or at least, I thought it did. My eyes opened. I was back in my bed, the hum of the city faint outside my apartment window, the clock on my nightstand glowing 3:12 a.m. Relief hit for half a second, until I realized I couldn't move. Not an arm, not a leg, not even my lips. My chest rose and fell in shallow jerks, like breathing itself was rationed. Panic clawed at me, but then I heard it. A sound. Soft at first, so soft I thought it might be my own pulse. It wasn't. It was something external, a noise too deliberate to be imagined. It had this strange, layered quality, robotic yet alive, like a broken speaker playing a voice not meant for human ears. 3 seconds passed, it repeated. 3 more. Again, louder each time, as if whatever made the sound was getting closer. I wanted to scream. My mind thrashed against my frozen body, but I was nothing more than a prisoner in my own skin. And then my eyes. The only things I could move, fixed on something that shouldn't have been. The closet door. I never leave it cracked, never. It's a small quirk of mine. Since childhood I've hated open closets, hated the void inside them when the lights are off. Yet there it was, an inch-wide gap slicing the dark, and behind it, a face. I swear to you a man was watching me. Not a man like you or me, but some warped distortion wearing the mask of one. His mouth was stretched too wide, impossibly wide, carved into a smile that exposed teeth like jagged glass. His eyes didn't blink. His skin seemed pale and greasy, as if it had been stretched too tight over his skull. The noise matched his presence. Every 3 seconds that sound, and with each repetition the gap in the closet seemed to shrink, the door inching shut as if the world itself was trying to hide him from me, but not before dragging him closer. The face leaned impossibly through the crack, jaw unhinging wider. The sound rattled my skull. Louder, louder. I thought my head would split open from it. Then, slum. The closet door shut with such force the whole frame rattled. Silence crashed into the room. My ears rang, my breath stuttered, and slowly, blessedly, my body obeyed me again. I lurched upright, gasping, my throat raw from the scream I thought I hadn't managed to make. I was 20 years old, but the first thing I did was sprint barefoot down the hall to my parents' room. They lived just across the river in Vancouver, and I'd been staying the week with them while dealing with a rough patch. I pounded on their door until my dad pulled it open. Hair a mess, eyes heavy with sleep. There's someone. My closet. Dad, you have to check. I stammered, voice breaking like a child's. He didn't even hesitate. He grabbed the flashlight he kept on his nightstand and marched back with me. The beam cut through the shadows as he yanked the closet door wide open. Nothing. No face, no figure, just clothes on hangers, a pair of shoes, an old box of notebooks shoved to the back. I tried to explain. The sound, the face, how real it had been. He put a hand on my shoulder, gave me a look that was equal parts tired and knowing. Sleep paralysis, he said simply. Happened to me once in college. Feels real, but it's not. But standing there, staring into the black hollow of my closet, I couldn't shake the feeling. The silence wasn't comforting. It was heavy, expectant. If it was only sleep paralysis, why did it feel like something was still in there, waiting for the next time I couldn't move? Have you ever woken up in the middle of the night absolutely sure you were awake, yet every part of your body refused to move? That's frightening enough on its own. But what if, in that frozen state, you realized you weren't alone? What if something in the dark was aware of your helplessness, watching you, feeding off of it, waiting for you to break? I didn't believe in things like that until the night my closet decided to breathe. I was 20 for the first time it happened. It was the spring of 2016, and I'd just moved into a rented house in Charleston, South Carolina. Old 2-story place, warped floorboards, wallpaper peeling like sunburn. I didn't care much about appearances. The rent was cheap, and I needed a place while I worked nights at the harbor. The closet in my bedroom was old-fashioned, its wooden door swollen from humidity, hinges groaning whenever I opened it. From the first day, something about that closet unsettled me. It wasn't just dark. It felt deep, like the shadows stretched farther than the shallow box of space should allow. I always kept it closed, always made sure the latch clicked. That night I fell asleep around dawn after another shift unloading containers. I slipped into one of those strange, fever-like dreams where nothing makes sense. I was walking barefoot through downtown Charleston, but the streets were empty, and the lamps bent downward like they were eavesdropping. I felt followed, but no footsteps echoed mine. The dream blurred, colors bleeding, and suddenly I was back in my room, staring up at the cracked plaster ceiling. Except, I couldn't move. It's hard to explain the shock of that first paralysis. Your brain screams at your body to twitch, cough, do something, but nothing answers. My chest rose shallow, ribs straining like they were caged. Panic built, but then I noticed something worse. The closet door. It wasn't just cracked open. It was breathing. The door swelled outward a fraction, then sucked inward again, as if the darkness inside was inhaling. With each breath, I felt a vibration in the air, a sickly rhythm pressing against my skin. It wasn't a sound exactly. It was more like waves of laughter, muffled, crawling under my flesh. I tried to keep my eyes away, tried to focus on the ceiling, but every time I shifted my gaze, my head betrayed me, tilting back toward the closet as if some force demanded I look. I saw something stir inside the gap, a shape, shoulders maybe, or hands gripping the frame. My pulse roared in my ears. Then something flew out. It landed heavy on my chest with a wet thud. I couldn't scream, but my throat worked, choking out pathetic grunts. I looked down. It was a head, a girl's head. Eyes rolled back, mouth slack. Recognition struck like lightning. It was Jessica, a girl I'd known in high school. The one who drowned senior year at Folly Beach. I hadn't thought about her in years. Her dead face stared up at me, strands of hair sticking to my shirt. The laughter swelled, crashing through me in waves. I writhed inside my own prison of flesh, straining to roll, to fling the thing away. My jaw ached with the effort to scream, but only guttural moans escaped. It lasted forever, a minute, maybe two. Long enough for the head to feel real, its weight pressing into me, its cold skin searing mine. And then, I woke up, truly woke up. My body snapped back, slick with sweat, sheets twisted around me. The head was gone. The closet was shut tight. But the relief didn't last, because even as I gasped for air, I knew what I'd felt wasn't just a dream. Dreams dissolve, this was anchored in me, leaving a residue of fear that clung for weeks. Every time I woke in the middle of the night, I'd stare at that closet, waiting for the latch to click open by itself. And sometimes, when the house was quiet, I swore I could hear it faint, low, like wood swelling with breath. Have you ever felt so certain that what you saw in a nightmare wasn't a dream at all, but a warning? I used to think dreams were nothing but random sparks in the brain. Strange, harmless echoes. But the night I saw my family standing at the edge of my bed, taller than the ceiling, crying as though I were already dead, I realized some things slip into our sleep not to haunt us, but to tell us what's coming. I've only had sleep paralysis 3 times in my life. The first 2 were unsettling but simple. I'd wake up, my body frozen, my breath shallow, my brain screaming at my arms and legs to move with no response. Just that helpless awareness of being alive but trapped inside myself. The third time was different, too different. It was early morning, sometime between 5 and 6, that strange gray hour when the world is half asleep. My blinds were tilted just enough to let in a smear of weak light, enough to remind me the sun was out there, but not enough to comfort me. I tried to roll onto my side. Nothing. My chest tightened. The paralysis was back. At first, it was just the familiar helplessness. But then I heard it, footsteps. Heavy, deliberate, climbing the stairs toward my bedroom. A cold spike of dread pierced me. My family never woke that early on weekends. The footsteps multiplied, more than one person. My pulse pounded in my ears as I stared at the doorway waiting. And then, they appeared. My brother, my sister, my dad, my mom, but they weren't right. Each of them towered a foot taller than they should have, their heads nearly brushing the ceiling. Their faces were twisted with grief, tears streaming down, shoulders shaking. They didn't speak, they just stood there, sobbing as though I were lying in a coffin instead of a bed. My eyes burned. I wanted to yell at them, beg them to stop because they were scaring me more than the paralysis itself. But not a sound left my throat. They crept closer. My heart hammered against its cage. Their shadows stretched unnaturally across the walls until they seemed to consume the room. And then, just like that, they turned. One by one, they filed back down the stairs, their sobs echoing until the silence collapsed over me like a blanket. My body released. I bolted upright, lungs dragging air, sweat cold against my back. Without thinking, I leapt out of bed and ran after them. I tore down the stairs, searching, desperate to demand why they had done that, why they had looked like that. But the living room was empty. The kitchen was dark. I crept to each of their rooms one by one and found them all asleep, peaceful, oblivious. My knees weakened. I had to lean against the hallway wall just to stay upright. My chest heaved with the weight of something I couldn't name. Fear, confusion, a sickening certainty that I hadn't dreamed any of it. I didn't sleep again that night. I stayed awake until the sun was fully up, every tick of the clock dragging slower than the last. I told myself it was just my brain misfiring, the way sleep paralysis works. Days later, when I was struck by a car crossing Hennepin Avenue with friends, the memory returned to me with brutal clarity. 3 broken bones, a fractured thigh, weeks in the hospital. And when I opened my eyes one of those first days, drugged and pale, I saw them, my family, standing at the side of the hospital bed looking down at me. My mother crying, my father silent, my siblings shaken. The image was almost identical to that night in my room. Only this time it wasn't paralysis. It was real. and I can't shake the thought, did I dream a warning? Or did something show me what was waiting, laughing at me as I lay frozen, too weak to understand? Have you ever laughed at something scary, only to regret it later when you realized the joke had followed you home? I didn't think shadows could carry sound. I didn't think a noise could crawl inside your dreams and wait for you there. But the summer I saw something hiding in a bush with my friends. I learned the kind of terror that doesn't stay outside. It finds a way into your room. It was July of 2019, thick humid heat pressing down on Savannah like a wet blanket. I'd been out late with friends, drinking cheap beer we'd picked up from a corner store, wandering around town without much of a plan. That's what summer nights always felt like back then. Aimless, heavy with heat, charged with the kind of electricity that makes you think anything could happen. We cut from downtown into the quieter neighborhoods. Spanish moss hung heavy from the oaks, the street lamps gave everything a gold tint, and the air buzzed with cicadas. I remember one of my friends, Jordan, suddenly stopping and pointing toward a hedge in front of a small white house. "Yo, someone's in there," he whispered. We all squinted, drunk curiosity making us braver than we should have been. And sure enough, there was something. The leaves shifted. The silhouette of a figure crouched low, just visible through the gaps. It was bizarre. Who hides in a bush at 1:30 in the morning? We edged closer, laughing nervously, tossing around half-hearted jokes about it. That's when the sound started. I don't even know how to describe it properly. It wasn't human, but it wasn't exactly mechanical either. Like a guttural, broken speaker crackling to life but layered with something alive underneath. The sound rose and fell in uneven bursts, wrong in a way my brain didn't want to process. Every hair on my arm stood on end. We screamed, half from fear, half from the absurdity of it, and bolted. The kind of laugh you let out when you're terrified but don't want to admit it. My chest hurt from running and laughing at the same time. By the time we split off to go to our houses, we were convincing ourselves it was just some weirdo messing with us. Nothing more. That night, drunk and exhausted, I crashed into bed without a second thought. But when I woke up, if you can call it waking up, everything changed. The room was nearly black, the blinds pulled shut against the streetlight glow. I tried to glance at the clock on my nightstand, but I couldn't. My body refused me. Paralysis. A cold panic spread instantly. My chest rose shallow, my throat thick, the room pressing down heavier than the summer air outside. My eyes darted as much as they could, searching the corners, hunting for anything familiar to cling to. Then the sound began. That same sound, the exact one from the bush. It started faint, distant, as though leaking through the walls. But it grew louder, closer, every second drawing nearer until it was filling the room, vibrating inside my skull. My eyes snapped forward, and that's when I saw it, at the foot of my bed. A head, just the grotesque, hovering head of something not human. Its skin sagged. Mottled gray, its eyes 2 pits too deep to belong to anything alive. Its jaw hung slack, trembling as the sound poured out of it, louder and louder, rattling the room. My stomach lurched. It wasn't floating. There was a body. But it was wrong, swallowed in the blackness of the room, blending into the shadows so completely it seemed made of them. Only the head stood out, impossibly close, impossibly real. It leaned toward me until its gaping mouth was inches from my face, filling my lungs with that vibration, that noise. And then, it faded, not like smoke, not like a dream. More like it was retreating, pulling itself backward into a place I couldn't follow. Suddenly, my body snapped awake. I screamed, the sound tearing my throat raw. I bolted upright, panting, chest heaving, my sheets damp with sweat. The lamp clicked on with trembling hands, light chasing away the corners. Nothing, the room was empty. The sound was gone, but I knew what I'd seen. What I'd heard, it wasn't a dream. I was awake. The next morning, I told my parents about it. They listened, concerned but skeptical. My mom frowned, said she'd heard of something called sleep paralysis. My dad just shook his head, muttering about bad drinking nights catching up to me. But when I mentioned the sound, the same sound from the bush, their faces changed. They'd never heard of anyone experiencing something like that. Neither had I, and that was the worst part. Because if I was the first, then what exactly had followed me home that night?